Hi, and welcome back to the Ascension Playground. My name is Ursie, and I just have chills of joy running through me because my guest today on the playground is none other than Peggy Black. Now, I met Peggy years ago when she was conducting women's groups in her home. She is nestled in the beautiful mountains of Santa Cruz County. So she's surrounded by this beautiful forest. And not only did I know Peggy through a support group for women, but I also knew you, Peggy, from your beloved garden near, what is it called? The Garden of the Beloved?
Garden of the Beloved.
Every year you open up your garden and your beautiful labyrinth with so many amazing elder Andaras that I've tried to come as many years as I can on the January 1st. So that's how I've met you, Peggy, through the women's group. I've never seen so many card decks, oracle card decks, tarot. I've never seen so many spiritual books as in your home. So welcome, Peggy Black.
Thank you. Thank you. My home is like a museum. I create altars everywhere.
I know every single inch of your place, there's a poem, a prayer, a pause, statues from around the world. And I just so appreciate on a playground that we can talk today a little bit about something very specific, the Andaras. But just so people know your background, my goodness, I'm just going to call out a few titles. You are what we call a multidimensional channel, and you offer private sessions. You also have a team that you work with, and you are a transducer and a scribe. And Peggy, I remember getting a reading from you once, and I had to say, Peggy, what's a transducer? Because I wasn't familiar with that term. And so,
are you asking me
sure,
that now?
Go ahead, just share with some that we don't know what a transducer is.
When I first started receiving information from the team I work with, they called me their transducer. And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. I later found out a transducer, and I didn't like the name. I didn't want it on my resume. And come to find out, a transducer is a term used in electronics where energy in one form is transduced into another form. So I was taking their energy and transducing it into words, sounds in our reality.
Wow. So for anyone listening, and please correct me if my summary is a little off, but it's this idea that if everything is energy, whether it's positive or negative, it's energy, and there's frequencies, etc. So what I imagine you saying is you can take energy, maybe not even just from this earth, but you can take energy or messages from your team. It goes through you as a channel, and you can either write it down or speak it forward.
Right.
Does that feel right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, before we go,
it's like being a radio receiver. It's like being a receiver. You know, when we dial into a radio program for music or a TV program, that's all this is. I'm just a receiver.
Wow. Wow. Well, speaking of receivers, I'd like to share a 4.5-minute video on Peggy's, one of her websites is called morningmessages.com, and it helps to explain a little bit of Peggy's story. So let me see if I can go grab that. Here it is. So Peggy, a movie of morning messages. This is the story, and please feel free to add as we watch this beautiful video.
The first message came a couple of years ago while I was journaling in the early morning. What I experienced was an energy that was so loving and felt so natural. My heart always feels more open and peaceful after I have scribed their energy into words. I am clear that these messages, the morning messages, are not about me. I am the scribe, the transducer, and the witness. My story is the container, and the morning messages are the content and the value. I realize that this energy that I call my team has been coming to me and guiding me in many ways and forms. 30 years ago, while doing a sketching exercise with my non-dominant hand, I was amazed as the images began to appear on the page, flowing effortlessly from my left hand. They danced, they flew, they gathered, they grouped, filling volumes of art books. This was the birth of my line drawings, my sticks. They are a playful expression and a symbolic aspect of my team. These hundreds of drawings have been waiting on a shelf in the art room for this moment. And now they join with morning messages as a gift to you, bringing joy and value to your day and your life. It is with a grateful heart that I share with you their first message. February 4th, 2005. Soft morning light, first hint of sunrise, quiet morning to write. Contact. We are here awaiting. How can I be sure this is not just my imagination? Because you know us, you remember, you are awakening. Will this become easier, more natural? Yes, like breathing. My ego still has some doubts. Your ego will become our partner, as it should be. This connection will begin to flow easier. These are baby steps. Will it be constant? We hope so. That is how it works best. I'm not sure what to ask. What would you like to know? Oh my, this could go in so many directions. It is just a matter of focus. We have been guiding you all along the way, and now we want you fully aware of us and our guidance. Will you assist me with restoring my body to optimal health? It's a blending of realities. We see you as perfect. Laugh, flow colors through your body, flow laughter through your body, and shake off anything else. These answers feel like they are coming from my own mind. We are one, remember? This has been happening for some time, since childhood. At times you have closed the door. However, we have just waited in the other room, and then you opened the door once again. We stream, we connect with those who allow and awaken. It is a matter of shifting frequency and vibration. We are here. Our presence is now to become more visible and bright in your world and in your life. Be at peace, beloved.
Wow. Oh, Peggy, tell us about your morning messages newsletter. I know this is a free service you offer, but anyone listening before we move into Andaras?
Well, anyone that would like to can go to the website, morningmessages.com, and there's a place to sign up and put your email, and you'll begin to receive free transmissions from the team. They come every third day, so as to not totally inundate your email. Every third day, you'll get a free message, and there's 88 of them. And then once a month, I send out a newsletter with a new transmission. And so when you go to that site, once you sign up, you can check it out because there's lots of free services. I offer 2 free programs a month, and there's links in the newsletter for you to tune into those. There's products for sale. There's other YouTubes that I've created. So it's just a volume of information. All of it's free.
That's such a gift. And that's what I felt when I was come to your home. There's always this expanded heart, you know, that it's this holding space for other people to journey and to embrace their own healing path, whatever healing could mean at that moment, whether it's physical, emotional, mental.
Right.
Wow. Well, you know, let's move to our fun topic of Andaras, because look what you are wearing, because I'm wearing an Andara too, and so are you, but you have the mother Andara.
I know. I was very fortunate because the stones that I have, I had a good friend. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I had a good friend who had artisans in Bali. And I remember sending them this particular stone. And I said, please do not reduce it. I want you to create me a pendant from this particular piece.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so we want to hear your story now. How did you and the Andaras come to pass?
Well, the thing about it is in 1999, I was going to go to Egypt with Jane Bell and Nikki Scully, and it was called Shamanic Journeys. And prior to me leaving, my good friend Randy Masters brought me a bag of stones, Andaras. And he said his friend Nellie would like me to take these stones to Egypt with me and gift them to the temples and the pyramids. And so I said, okay. And I didn't know anything about them. So he just said Nellie had found them years ago and in her land in the Sierras. And when she found them after a huge landslide, mudslide, after a wet winter, there was these big boulders that were all over the ground, and she had picked them up and brought them back to her home in Central Valley. And she had someone channel them. And the channel said that they had been put there by the time walkers, that they were timeless stones. I think the person that channeled them channeled Thoth, the Egyptian pantheon of wisdom. And so I had these Andara stones, these timeless stones, and I flew to Egypt, and in the hotel, or the Mina House is a big hotel, right next to the pyramid. I mean, the pyramid was so close, I could feel it. It was just so intense. And I'm laying out the Andaras on the vanity, and my roommate comes into the room, and this has been arranged. I hadn't met her. And so she comes in and she says, my name is Janice Wilson. I'm a CEO of Wells Fargo Bank. She says, that's my day job. And she says, at night, I work with the cosmic grids. And she says, what are you here to do? And I said, well, I've been scholarshiped. My trip has been paid for. I've been scholarshiped to do sacred sounds in the temples and the pyramid. And I brought these stones, these timeless stones. At this point, we've just met. We're in our hotel room with twin big beds. She falls back across one of the beds dramatically. I'm kind of looking at her, rolling my eyes like I'm going to be with this lady for 2 weeks, right? And she sits up and she said, 2 nights ago, I woke up and I sat up in meditation, and Thoth came to me and said that there were secrets and mysteries in the temples and pyramid that was under an energetic lock that would be opened by a timeless stone activated by sound. And so here we were. I've got chills. Every time I tell that story, I get chills. Anyway, here we were. She looks at me and she says, you think we've got some work to do? And so we told everyone on our group, there was about, I think, 35 people. Some people remembered making this agreement. I did not. But nevertheless, every morning I would look at the stones and I would say, which stones would like to stay at the Isis temple? And one of them would light up, is the best way I could describe it. And so I would bring it with me, and everyone would touch it and infuse it with their intention. When we would get to the temple, Nikki would find the most sacred space, and we would create an altar, and everybody would put their rings or their jewelry or their stones on this altar. And I would put the Andara. And then Nikki would lead us in a visualization, a prayer, and then she would ask me to do sounds. And I would. And then when it was complete, I would pick up that Andara and I would hide it. I would drop it behind a big stone or in a crack. So you can't see them because I made sure they were just there energetically. But I didn't leave them on a shelf where people could pick it up. And I did this for all throughout all the temples and the pyramid. And I even went to the to the base of the pyramid, down into the pit, which was really scary, and all the way up to the Queen's Chamber and King's Chamber. And so there's Andaras throughout the pyramid. So then I came home, and Nellie wanted to meet me. So I drove to Modesto, which is about 2 hours from my house. And she was elderly and she did not move easily. So she had a lot of Andaras in her yard. And I don't know if anybody knows Central Valley, but California, there's a thing called Bermuda grass, and it just climbs over everything. So she had excuse me, she had had some teenage boys go up to her land in the Sierras and bring these stones down, and they just tossed them out of their truck. And so there were piles of them, but the Bermuda grass had covered them. So myself and 2 other Capricorns made an agreement to go one day a month and help Nellie get those stones out of her yard and get them up on tables and benches and shelves so she could sell them. And I had inherited some money from my parents. And so every month I bought Andaras, lots of them. And I think by the end of the year, I'd easily spent close to $30,000 worth of Andaras, because I'd had this affiliation with the Andaras in Egypt and their power, how strong they were. But it was like, what am I going to do with all these stones? I've just got boxes and bags and big stones, really big stones. So I started taking them up to my good friend Tom Kenyon's conferences and selling them in my room. And they sold, little raw stones. I sold them. And in the process, I ended up meeting a lady, and I traded some Andaras for a beautiful bone carving of Ganesh. And it was just lovely, but I had made a trade. And the next time I met with her, she had turned my Andaras that I had given her into these pendants, these necklaces, which I ended up buying one. And what happened was I got in touch with her later and asked her if I sent her an image of a Hathor, would they carve, her artisans be able to do a bone carving, which they did. And I have them for sale on my Peggy Black website. And then she began to I sent her stones, raw stones, and she had her artisans begin to make jewelry. So pendants and rings and earrings. And that's how that whole thing unfolded. I'm at the place right now, because I've been selling these stones since 1999, that my supply is being limited. And the jewelry that I have now is all because she's no longer there. I don't have that connection anymore. So.
Well, but you do still have some pendants that
I have some pendants, yes.
Available. And if people are, and they're about the size that I'm wearing, let's see.
Yes.
Okay. So they can always contact you through peggyblack.com, and you've got an email.
And also it's easy for them if you call me, email or call me, because then we can talk about it. A lot of people call me that want a stone, and I'll hold it, and then they'll go, no, that doesn't feel good. And then I'll hold another one, and then pretty soon they'll go, ooh, I like that feeling of that one. So.
Wow. Well, it's Healing Saturday, and I want to segue now from this incredible journey that you've had, synchronicities abounding. And by the way, a shout out to Randy Masters, who's been an incredible teacher for me on many levels as well. Just to look at the healing properties of Andara. And some people would probably like to know, let's go back to the beginning of what is an Andara and what does monatomic mean? So I'm going to let you answer that one.
I wish I had my paper. I could get a paper that I could read, which would help.
Oh, well, I can go to your website here. Let me see, because you have a second website here called peggyblack.com. And there's a section on Andaras. So here we are. Look at that, beautiful. So here's your site, and here's some of your titles that we mentioned before, just a few. And there's a box here calling Andaras. And in it, Peggy, you give us a little bit of your story on Nellie. And then you start talking about Prima Matra.
This is not a lot of stuff I understand, but this is stuff like Randy Masters is a master of this. And he had a lot of these stones tested. And so they discovered that they don't test as glass. People say, that, oh, they're just green glass. They don't test as glass. They test differently. And there's a lot of information you can find out about them. But if you'll scroll down a little further, there's a list of the properties that they're Andaras. So Andaras expand your states of consciousness. They increase access of your universal knowledge, activate the ability for channeling, accelerates the spiritual development process within you, and they create a bridge between the ethereal and the physical dimensions. And I can attest to this. I feel like because I've wore an Andara or carried an Andara, I sleep with them. They're everywhere. I really think it has had a tremendous influence in how easy it is for me to connect to my team.
Wow, I'm just going to emphasize too on the screen. Here's Peggy's information, her phone number and email, peggyblack@aol.com, for anyone listening to connect with Peggy if you're interested in an Andara pendant or an Andara. Let me stop sharing for just a moment. This is, from what I can understand, and I've lived with an Andara now for at least 6-7 years, there's something that helps one with ascension. So it's no accident that Mother Earth, at the time that they were found on Nellie's property, I felt like they were answering a collective need of the society to help us as we choose to ascend with Gaia, with Mother Earth.
And they're such a beautiful energy. They're very gentle energy. I'm so accustomed to it. I remember in Seattle when I'd open my room and it was filled with Andaras, somebody would say, I don't even know how you can sleep in this room, but I'm so accustomed to the energy. Those that love stones can equate maybe an Andara similar to moldavite, a star stone.
That's a good analogy. In fact, I'm wearing some moldavite earrings. here's what I tuned into with monatomic. It's one atom. So the Andara has a very specific sacred geometry and structure that's different than quartz crystal. Mm-hmm. The spin rate of an Andara, it is helping with ascension by a faster spin. And now when I started looking at your site too, Peggy, that you talk about how the Andaras can set up a network that you helped found around the globe. So if you buy a pendant, like let me show you mine, and you meditate with it, you have the ability to ask it to now connect with the Andara system that you've helped foster on the planet. Can you mention a little bit more about?
Well, when I first started working with Andaras, becoming what I call the seneschal, the keeper of Andaras, one of the things that I did is I got a world globe and I gave it to Nellie. And every time I would go to Tom's and I would give stones to people that were coming from all over the world, and I would just say, take these Andaras back and hide them, bury them in your sacred sites. And so people all over the world began to then, they're in Stonehenge. I have a friend whose husband was with the Exploratorium in San Francisco, and he took them to both the North and South Poles. They're all over Britain and Ireland, because I put them there. There were those in Japan, South America, Australia, throughout Europe. And so when you have an Andara, there's already a grid, and you can intuitively, if you're a traveler, intuitively, if you hold your Andara, wear your Andara, it's like your passport, and you can just travel to these places, wherever the Andara happens to be. Whatever sacred site there is an Andara, you have access to that.
Wow. What's coming up for me is this idea of you can speak. I call for the activation of the Andara network as you meditate with one of your beautiful pendants.
And then just sit quietly and see what image comes up. Are you standing in the middle of Stonehenge? Are you at some sacred well in Ireland? Where has the stone taken you?
From the comfort of your own home, you can transport to these sacred sites, to the poles. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the colors, because the green Andara, I think I read you said that this can help open and expand your heart. And we know that green, and there's several colors for the heart, the high heart, but something you want to mention about the green Andara that you're wearing in particular?
Well, the green Andara, everybody loves it because of the emerald tablets. Everyone's fond of the green. Unfortunately for me, I don't have very much large green Andaras. I've got stones that are worth several $1,000s, but most of the smaller stones have already been sold. But the idea, whether it's clear or a light green or even a deep, deep root beer color,
yeah,
they all carry the same energy and essence.
I put this new background that's on your site that shows a little bit of the variety. Andaras aren't just one color. That root beer one I heard is really...
it's called a peacekeeper.
Oh.
Well, apparently Nellie's land was known for having pockets of powdered minerals. So she used to go up there with buckets and get these powdered minerals and then sell them to a gentleman who would bottle them, and he would label them etheric gold. So people at health food stores were buying these. I bought some, a little bottle, and you'd put the minerals under your tongue. And because there were pockets of minerals on her land, I think what happened is there was a fusion of heat. Thoth said there was a shifting of dimension. and it fused those minerals, and whatever minerals were there ended up being the color that they were.
Wow. Well, can we talk a little bit more about those time walkers? Because there's
I don't know much about them.
Okay, but let's just say that they are these multidimensional beings that left or help bring bring to planet Earth Andaras. Now, Nellie is one site in Modesto. Were there other sites, a few other sites around the globe, or are you only aware of Nellie's site?
I'm aware of Nellie's, and I knew Nellie and was at her land and worked with her. After Nellie passed away, there were a group of individuals that took over her managing of the Andaras. And all of a sudden, there's all kinds of Andaras. There's blue, and there's lavender, and there's pink, and there's gold. And I never, in all the years I worked with Nellie, I never saw any of those colors. The colors that I worked with at Nellie's land were all the shades of green, the deep root beer, and the clear. And one that had kind of that bluish, I want to say like a Coke bottle, you know, that kind of clear with a little blue tint. All the other stones I never saw.
Okay.
Now, there are people I know buy Andaras that are blue or yellow or red, and they feel they have all kinds of energy. I can't verify that. I don't have a personal experience of that. I know that there was a beautiful store up in Mount Shasta that carried Andaras from Nellie's land. In fact, I was up there one time, and there was a small piece of green, dark green. And I said, how much is it? And she said, $1,000. And I said, I'll buy it. And the friend I was with said, what are you doing? You've already got a bunch of Andaras. You know, but it was kind of like, I knew it came from Nellie's. It was green, I wanted it. And I asked her personally about the colors. She says, I won't let them in my store.
Okay.
So there's some controversy here.
Well, I think that's a good point for buyer beware. As you learn about the nature of Andara, it's just like moldavite. You know, people are cautioned, you think it's moldavite, but it could be something that's not, because the supply and the demand. But what I enjoy what you're saying is you're basing your focus on your own personal experiences coming from the land of Nellie, who is no longer with us. So you have to almost buyer beware, like tune in to what feels right for you. Peggy, the pendants that you're selling, now we've mentioned $1,000 for, you know, but let us know, what's the price range, just the general range for something?
Some of the smaller ones, you know, a small one. Normally I wear a small one because I sleep in it. I wear it all the time. I don't wear this all the time. They're around $100. So they're not that pricey.
So it's as far as affordability and validation and verification that you know where the pendants that you're selling came from. And now you mentioned your good friend, Tom Kenyon. I mean, you just kind of like let that roll off. And if anyone listening knows the amazing work of Tom Kenyon, it's, I mean, his movie, the books, his website. And so that's a whole other topic, but how sound Andara and your travels to Egypt, to these specific sites as a scholarship, you know, I'm putting the tea leaves together around just how amazing what's come through you as a channel in your life, like you're allowing for what wants to show up, come forward. And so when you talk about validation of authenticity, you're speaking from a place of, this is not about making money. This is about truth with a capital T, and honoring the whole narrative around why these stones came forward anyway.
Yeah. Well, we have a physical body, but we're really pure energy. We're divine energy. And And as that divine energy, we're powerful beyond measure. We don't even begin to understand our true power because we're living in a physical body that's limited. So we have a tendency, our ego, our consciousness has a tendency to feel limited. But who we are in our essence, the part of us that is animating this physical body, is divine. It's unlimited. And so we connect to stones and crystals and sound. This whole planet has been created by sound. Sound is one of the most powerful tools we could use. And if people get acquainted with their own personal sound and how to use them, Tom is an excellent source. And I've been attending his workshop as his friend. I've been on his staff since probably the late 90s. But sound will alter consciousness. It heals our body. It's powerful.
So as you're saying that, I'm thinking, if you decide to reach out to Peggy and get a pendant and you want to meditate and call in your star family, don't be afraid to vocalize any sound. And if you need physical healing, you can ask that organ, I'm going to sing this organ into balance. And with an Andara, I'm just going to focus that and ask the time walkers to, in quantum, everything is in balance. In 3D and 4D, we're still playing with linearity and dis-ease. But oh my gosh, Peggy, to sing ourselves well with the support of Andara and this network that they can bring through of global sacred sites, it's mind-blowing at a certain level. So you just have to come into the water, try it out for yourself,
And the thing is you don't have to own one.
Good point.
You can connect to that energy field by intention. So if you're in a situation financially where this is not something that you can acquire, although I do have small pieces about the size of your thumb that is for $20, $25. So they're reasonable. But the thing is it's your intention. So you can just imagine yourself in the center of a beautiful Andara and just travel around the world.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back and sit with so here's this picture of the Andara that I received from Peggy's website. If you don't mind, can people go ahead and just screenshot that picture and meditate with it? If they can't, afford, look at this healing green. This is the green, that Archangel Raphael, this is what we work with in reconnective healing.
I have a story to tell about that particular stone. It's about the size of a basketball. And this is after a couple years I've been working with Andaras, and I have it in my living room. And I was going to Albuquerque to one of Tom Kenyon's events. And this stone kept saying, I need to go. And I was not going to carry this 35-pound stone with me. It's one thing to carry a little bag of stones, but another to carry a boulder. And I put a lot of little stones around it. And I said, I'll take these and bring them back and they can share with you, but I can't carry you. And it got so loud the night I was packing to go that I literally wrapped it in towels and put it in a carry-on. Fortunately, this all happened when it was easy to carry a big stone through the airport. And so I got to the event, and Tom was going to be doing their Gandharva meditation that Friday night. And there was about 400 people there. And my friend Janice from Egypt was there, but she had only seen little tiny pieces of Andara. And here I've got this big one. So I take it out and I'm walking across in front of the stage to where Janice was. And Tom looks down and he said, Peggy, did you bring that stone? And I said, yes. I mean, a little embarrassed because it is a basketball. I'm having to carry it like this. And he said, oh, the Hathors told me someone would bring a stone to anchor the altar. And I just handed it up to him. And that beautiful green stone stayed on the altar, and the whole workshop was on the heart. And so Saturday, we had the workshop, and I was told by Spirit that everyone needed to have a piece of Andara. Well, I travel with maybe a little bag of 20 or 30, but I certainly didn't have enough for 400. And so I was told the Andaras are willing to surrender, which I knew what that meant. So I went to housekeeping and I got a hammer and I sat down on the floor in the bathroom on a towel and I hit them and I cried and I hit them and I counted out 400 little pieces of Andaras. And I got a beautiful bowl from housekeeping. And the last day of our seminar, Tom fixed a beautiful altar in front of the stage. And we had that particular Andara there. And on the front of it, you can put your left hand, there's a perfect left hand print. You can put your hand right into that form, which is right to your heart. Mm-hmm. And then pick up a little piece for yourself. And so that was how that unfolded. I used to meet people at his events and they would say, I still have that little Andara on my altar.
Oh my goodness. Well, for anyone listening, still listening, oh my gosh. So we talked about Peggy Black, Randy Masters, Nellie, Tom Kenyon, and I want to call out another name who refers to Peggy as her friend, and that is astrologer of renown, Pam Gregory. Heard yes. Pam talk and shout out to you. I think I sent you her a while back. I said, hey, Peggy. Pam said hello. Basically a shout out to you. It's remarkable. We are, when Thoth comes in or the wisdom and people are saying, yes, I want to be the open channel to help support the collective and myself, as far as balance and healing. When you get out of your own way, I mean, Peggy, you have authored with your team, 4 books, a guidance deck, and maybe 5 or 6 webinars. And everyone can find this on Peggy's website. Wow.
Thank you.
Keeping it real, keeping it really real. And the most beautiful thing is I think you're on the registry for labyrinths. Yes. Now, when I came on January 1st, 2022, you opened your home, you opened the garden. And I asked you, have these big Andaras always been here? Because I remember a few, but it's almost like until my vibration was ready to see the magnificence of your whole labyrinth and garden, I don't even remember, but I had gone by myself. I think when you're with someone else, sometimes there's this chatter. And I felt, thank you, God, that we made it through some really rough time. I'm going to go visit Peggy in the labyrinth. Can you speak a little bit about how the Andaras play a role with that labyrinth? Because there's the elders there. There's what's called elder Andaras, or at least that's the energy that I felt that they were carrying.
Well, for me, the team invited me to create a labyrinth in 1999. So I started working on it prior to going to Egypt. And then when I came back, I finished working on it. So I worked on it for a year, just cleaning the land, laying out the stones, getting everything ready. That's a whole story in itself. And in December, the team says it's time to open. I opened the circuits. I walked the labyrinth. And so January 1st, I opened the labyrinth for everyone to come and walk their intentions for the new millennium. And so I always have a big open house. I make 2 huge pots of soup and cider, and people bring potluck. And I've had as many as 150 people come through, walk the labyrinth. Some of them leave. A carload of people will get out, walk the labyrinth, buy, get back and go on their way, whatever they're doing for the January 1st. Over the last couple of years, we've just made the labyrinth available, but we haven't done an open house.
Wow. Well, in closing, I just would love to invite you back. Seemingly things seem to go very pivotally back to this Egyptian scholarship tour. And I would love to talk to you later about, on the playground, about Abydos and more about the Andaras and your special journey.
I would love to talk about Egypt because there was a lot of incredible things that happened there that is still astounding to me.
Wow, what a powerful share today. Thank you, Peggy.
You're so welcome. It's been a delight. I'm amazed at how you maneuver all of the images in this whole setup. I'm doing good to just sit here and look at my screen.
Well, I love that you came to play with us. Come back, and until next time, we'll see everybody on the Ascension Playground. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.